Hi, my name's Andy, and today we'll be talking about the 2008 Japanese film Departures. The purpose of this channel is kind of just to talk shop about little gems, either films, books, or other kind of art media that I quite like, though definitely around filmmaking is something that I'm quite interested in. I myself have a background in video journalism and making shorts. Nothing great, nothing that you would have seen, but it's something that's always fascinated me and something that I've always wanted to be a part of, or learn about and read about, watch and delve into and be interested in. This film, which actually won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, going up against Waltz with Bashir that year, which everyone thought would be the contender. And everyone was surprised that this sweet, sentimental Japanese film about the business of death and funerals kind of took the main prize. I think it's kind of overlooked a little bit in the sense of, though it made a big splash by winning an Oscar, and it was quickly forgotten about because of those reasons of sentimentality, because maybe people thought it was a bit of a light work. I think sometimes there's this bit of a disregard for sentimentality and a certain way of displaying emotions in filmmaking that I think sometimes people look, the serious film critics or film lovers even can look down upon it. This was a film directed, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, so I'm just going to look here, Yujiro Takita, Japanese film director, I haven't seen any of his other work, and I think this is the film that he's kind of most known for in Japan, but correct me if I'm wrong there. And basically the film is about a young man and his wife who he plays in an orchestra in Tokyo as a cello player, and the orchestra goes bust. So he and his lovely young wife, they decide to leave Tokyo and go to the Japanese countryside where his deceased mother, who died several years before the events of the film, left him their old house. So they pack everything up and go. His father has been missing in the picture for several years, left him when he was a kid and took up with some other woman. And that's a bit of a pain and a sore point in this young man's journey, which comes to, comes up later in the film. And, he's looking for work in this small town, this place that he grew up in, and, he's bumping into some people that he used to know, getting used to the area, and he answers a job ad call for something that says Departures, which he, naively believes, rightly so actually, with considering how the ad was made, that it's some kind of travel agency job or something like that. But what it is actually is helping people to depart, in the very literal death sense, I guess you could say. Literal death sense? That probably doesn't make sense, but doesn't matter. So in Japan, this term is called, and I'm going to read this now, no kenshi. Apologies if that pronunciation is not absolutely correct. And it's a ritual mortician, as it's called. There's a lot of social taboos around that, and obviously because of the nature of the job, like he needs job, he needs work, he needs money, and it pays really good. He takes that on, but doesn't tell his wife, and that's just the start of this young man's journey in this film. And I don't want to necessarily spoil everything about this film for you. I think half the point of enjoying this film is in taking those steps with the character as things become a little bit more complicated for him. It's directed quite beautifully and quite almost nuts and bolts filmmaking, but in a way that really plugs you into the rhythm of the characters in the film, I feel, especially during the extended funeral ritual scenes dealing with these deceased people. And in the film, and I imagine in the way these I'm going to say this word again, no kenshi, apologies, how they, it's basically the setup for this kind of job that the main character takes on is once the person is deceased, you kind of go into this kind of family viewing room, I guess you could say, in this, in a shrine or in some kind of establishment, because it doesn't seem to matter what religion also you are, and anyone can kind of take on this service. At least in this the business in this film. What they do with the dead body is they kind of lay it out in this almost like robe, and the family and friends of the deceased are kind of sitting in front, and threw away without ever showing bare skin or being indecent. These mortician characters, these no Kenshi, they do this process of cleaning the body, putting on a new robe, funeral robes, for burial or for burning, depending on that. But they do it all in a really beautiful. It's almost like it is performance. It's kind of performance art in many respects to the dead, where like using sheets and being very discreet, they managed to create this beautiful aspect where they're making up the body, they're making it look presentable, and they're putting all these beautiful aspects around it and giving it new clothes, but in this delicate, beautiful the manner. Even when they're doing things like cleaning the nose and cleaning, the backsides and stuff like that, it's all very symbolic in many respects. It's like the last cleansing before the person passes on. I mean, death and grieving over death. Incredibly challenging things in the world. There's a lot to like about this film. I think if you're really into nice stories, delving into not just only elements about culture, and elements like that have to do with the way cultures grieve. The ceremony scenes are absolutely wonderful, and it opens with a ceremony scene, and it kind of just really sets the tone right. There's just really gracefully locked off. There's a lot of locked off camera in this film, so locked off coverage of the shots. Just these beautiful, beautiful scenes that are just really nicely put together, and I think really deserve a lot of praise and attention. Like there's one scene in this film in particular where the young main character has a particularly rough day at the office, I guess you could say, with a decomposing body that no one knew was dead. He goes back that night to, his old childhood home, that he now shares with his young wife, she's cooking some kind of meat, and it kind of sets him off, and he kind of Jari reaches for a bit, but then he grabs her and he's like, just holds her and like kisses her flesh, and doesn't lead to sex, I don't think, because they kind of cut away, but just like feeling her and knowing she's alive after seeing death, and knowing that there's vibrancy there, I think, and that there's life there, I think is a really great moment in the film that I like the impactful, especially because it kind of breaks from most of the other film where it's a lot of characters talking and expressing emotion in that way. So I thought that was really nicely handled. I got to talk about the score, which is absolutely fabulous. Done by the wonderful, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong again because I'm terrible with this, but Joe Hisaishi, who's done a lot of the Studio Ghibli films that many people, I imagine, might have watched or might not. His score on this film is absolutely wonderful. I just like this score. It's so emotive. And I like how they work it into the main character, because he plays cello, and a piece he plays early on, which kind of begins the main theme, musical theme I should say, is just really great. The way they put that into the film and make him playing it. I don't know, there's just a lot to like about this film. I think it is definitely worth a watch if you feel like you want to feel something, I guess, in many respects. It's one of those films that has kind of just stuck with me since I first saw it. I'm very much interested in a lot of Japanese art and culture, and I would love to go there one day when all this, and when we all get the chance to again. So it's really made me interested to see and to hear from fellow Japanese people. Was this film a big hit over in Japan? It kind of suggests that it was. And what do you think about those criticisms of, while great elements of the film, people like the encoffining scenes, and those kind of things that they thought maybe the plot was a little bit too sentimental. And is that a bad thing? Being too sentimental can definitely impact on a film, but I think it's always the right balancing point. And I'm not necessarily saying this film necessarily got that balance right, but I think its other elements really just overpowered it to become something that I feel is just a true gem, and deservedly needs to be up there with really great quality filmmaking, because I just think it's just simple, clean, efficient, tells you the story, and sometimes that's all you need. You don't need anything flashy. You don't need anything world-ending. Definitely think it's worth a watch. I definitely highly recommend it. As I said, it's in my top 10, maybe even top 5. God knows. Definitely in the top something. No, but no, I really cherish it a lot. And if you guys have seen it, let me know what you think. Let me know if I've gotten anything wrong, or if there's little facts that I would find interesting, or other viewers would find interesting about this film. And yeah, I'll see you next time. So enjoy yourself.